This is the Shades of Green radio show, featuring the latest in technology, money-saving ideas, legislative updates, and all things green. The Shades of Green radio show is presented by the Green Alliance. Now here's your hosts, Paul Ira and Stan Hannell.
Good morning. This is Shades of Green Radio on KDWN 720 AM in Las Vegas. Our show is sponsored by Green Alliance of Nevada and also sponsored by NV Energy. And I'm your host, Paul Ira. Today, our guests in studio are Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we also have, of course, Stan Hannell from Drive Clean Las Vegas.
Thank you.
We would like for you to call in to 702-257-5396 if you have any questions or would like to talk with one of our guests. Today, we're talking gardening in the desert. This is going to be a great topic. It's very timely with spring is here. The sun is starting to shine most days. We've had some cloudy days here. I've called in sick on 2 days in a row because it was cloudy. That's my joke. It's so sunny here that when it gets cloudy, I call in sick. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Vanessa, Bryan. You guys consider yourself green? I mean, gardening is not enough to be considered green. What's your greenness about you? How come you're green? And why? How'd you get started being green? And why do you consider this planet a great thing to save?
Well, it's the only one we have, so that's definitely
There you have
a good one. But I'm big into permaculture, if you've experienced any of that before. Just
no, what's that?
Using all available resources and not overusing things and sharing harvests, and it's just a whole way of thinking and planning out for life and the planet.
I do that. I didn't know it was called.
Yeah, there's a whole field of terminology that I learned once I got into that, and it's like, oh, I've been calling it this.
Permaculture, huh?
Yes. So it's a mixture of permanent and agriculture, also permanent and just culture just every day, because it's now expanded just from growing practices and the way you plant certain things and using more perennials instead of annuals. And it's just high input up front, and then it's just all harvest after that. Just drops off as far as what the plants need from you. It's creating that ecology. But now it expands into just different social constructs and all sorts of things.
So how long have you been into gardening?
Gardening since I was elementary school. We always had some tomatoes or basil or grow a little something here on the back porch or in the backyard.
I grew up in Iowa, so I've been gardening since I can walk.
Born.
And I remember my father, I was yelling upstairs at 6 a.m. in the summer, get up before it gets hot out there. And I was like, why does it matter? We're going to be out there all day anyway, so let me sleep. And Vanessa, you have been gardening for a while too?
Yeah, so actually it was after college. I went to Asheville, North Carolina to study herbalism. And since then, I had been just doing work trade, just working in the gardens. I worked at the botanical sanctuary for our school, and there's a lot of people out there that are doing just living sustainably, building their own homes, just everything sustainable. Just everything is renewable, and it really inspired me to just kind of change the way that I was living and just focus more on living green.
Yeah, and you grew up here in the desert. You're a Las Vegas native.
I did.
That's fantastic.
So you can help us figure this out. So a lot of people hopefully are listening today to find out about this. And when you start a garden, there's so many different things you can do. And I've seen so many different things working in the world of sustainability, from pallets, sending pallets upright, hanging cans on them, gardening like that, water flow gardens where water waters at the top and goes all the way down some wall or something. So there's lots of different things. There's raised bed gardens. And then there's the old school garden like I came from, where it's just a field and you go out and plant everything and a lot of it. So tell us a little bit about where do we start? How do we get started with a garden here in the desert?
Well, there's three big concerns. Obviously, we've got plenty of sunlight, which is great. That's the energy for plants. So making sure you site your garden properly on, in your yard, that you're getting sunlight, and try and minimize the afternoon sunlight, because that's that scorching heat in the summer. And also pay attention to things south of your garden. So as the path of the sun lowers in the winter, you don't want your garden just full on in shade, which happens to a lot of people. We go into residences and they decided to just put it up against a wall. And so it's getting no sun for like 4 months of the year. So siting is important, starting off with a good soil, and then trying to use as high efficiency watering irrigation as you can. So we tend to use drip irrigation, because overhead sprinklers, you just get a lot of evaporation and waste. Or just, doing it with a watering can, it's it's romantic and cute thinking that picture, but it's always better.
Also tedious because it's every day.
Yeah.
Overhead watering, and I don't want to get ahead of you, but I have an Italian friend who overhead waters his garden once every 3 days, even in the summer. And I was like, really, you don't water every day? And he goes, no. He said, I just water the heck out of it every 3 days. And he says, then it waters deep. And his plants are great.
Yeah. Depending on what he's lettuce, that's going to be kind of tough, but you're not really growing that in the summer anyways.
No.
But if you do infrequent waterings and go deeper, that forces the plant root structure to go deeper. So then it's more able to survive in between waterings.
So what I didn't understand is how is his overhead better than a drip system? Why not just drip the heck out of it for longer every 3 days?
That's just his own feel, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's kind of gardening's one of those things where we did research up to a certain point, and there's still farm and ag schools and things like that, but they really don't do more research into different types of growing. We're kind of hey, we know we throw the seed in, we throw some water on it and some fertilizer, and it's going to come up. Yeah. So they're just trying to fine tune it for profitability nowadays with industrial agriculture.
Okay, so we talked about the 3 main things to get started with a garden. We're going to come back and talk about some soil, how to irrigate, location, and what to plant.
All right.
We'll be right back to Shades of Green on KDWN. Good morning, and we're back to Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM radio in Las Vegas. We have Vanessa and Bryan in studio from Garden Farms. We're talking gardening today in the desert, and we talked about the first 3 issues, siting, soil, and water to get your garden started. So for those folks out there just getting started building a garden, how do we get started building a garden?
Well, you could go about it on your own, and if you got Pinterest, you got different ideas like crazy, or just searching on the internet. Or you can call Garden Farms. We can come out and do a free consultation.
Wow,
Give you some ideas on what you can do, whether it's garden or edible landscaping, fruit trees, all sorts of different options.
Cool. And in my garden, what I want to do is I want to have fruit. So I want to grow some fruit trees, additional fruit trees. I want to have medicinal plants.
That's where the herbalism is really
I've
good.
got a
that's good.
ton of aloe vera. I've been rescuing aloe vera, and I had a greenhouse, and I'd take an aloe vera plant apart, separate them all out, and now I've got pots after pots of aloe vera. So I'll share some of those with you if you come and do that. And then, of course, vegetables that grow as long as possible, and healthy vegetables. One of the good things that I started growing, and I'm not doing really well at, but okay, is beets. And beets have become, a real forefront vegetable now. They're very slow growing, though. So talk about building raised bed gardens, or if you have limited space, what would you recommend for a garden for someone with a small lot like I used to have?
Well, when I was renting, I would always do container gardening. So
Nice.
I got a whole bunch of 5-gallon containers from Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yeah.
And I would just grow in those. I had dozens of those just all around whatever rental property I was at, whether it was a home or an apartment, and I could pop little things outside. And then now that I have my home, I've just built my own raised beds. And I find that's just the better way to go because we don't have enough organic matter in our native soil. I think of dirt as a derogatory word, rather. I'm we just have dirt here. We don't have soil.
Right. They are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Dirt's what you get on your shoes. Soil's what you grow with.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And you were telling us you even have your own special blend soil. That's really neat.
Yeah, we've got a couple of our own blends with Garden Farms, and we're working on even creating more and better blends. It's a local company that they bring in different things from usually Southern Cal or Central Valley and different mixes that we're using.
Yeah, and you were saying it's more vegan. It's got more green stuff in it.
Yeah, we've got one that's entirely plant-based, and so I call it the vegan soil.
Nice.
That's really and some composting as well. It's kind of, you said, a combination of
Yeah, just different composted green waste, and we do that at our local community gardens too. It's all plant-based because we're just composting the plants that we're using, and we get some free wood chips if you just call up a tree trimming service. That's an easy way to get some free mulch.
Yeah.
Is wood chips okay in the garden? Or are you using just for mulching?
We use it for mulching. If you do if you get it down small enough and composted it, you could then kind of start, adding it to your soil. But I like to use it just for mulching. I talk to the tree trimming services. You want to make sure you don't get certain things. Like you would prefer mesquites and acacias, any of these nitrogen fixing trees. because they pull nitrogen from the air and fix it into the soil. And so you want that high nitrogen. That's your green growth for your plants.
Did you say acacia?
Yeah. Also, Palo Verde is great for that. And then I talk to them and say, hey, are you cutting any oak trees? Because if you're cutting oak, I don't want any of that.
No.
Because oak's allelopathic, which means it inhibits growth of things around it. And you usually find that in the ends of the trees, so the fruit, like the buds that are growing out. And there's still some in the roots too. Trunk, not as much, because it's just transferring through that growing layer out to where the growth is needed. So I'm like, just avoid oak.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you.
Great. Other mulching while we're on that.
Well, I tend to plant things so densely that the plants themselves act as a living mulch.
That makes sense, yeah.
Especially, with companion planting. You've got the tomatoes, sure, that's great, but there should be marigold, there should be carrot, there should be garlic, all these different plants that help grow a better tomato, and these plants are then grow better as well, being in this community. It's called a guild.
Really?
It's creating your own ecology, your own ecosystem.
I hadn't heard of that.
Great. Companion.
I grew up in Iowa, and the big problem out there, weeds are a big problem. They grew everywhere, and I tried everything. I grew tomatoes like crazy. And one year I thought, how about cardboard? And I covered my entire garden with cardboard and made it so that the water would flow into it. And that way I can space my tomatoes out some more. I picked tomatoes that year with a wheelbarrow. I had so many, and I had no weeds, didn't have to pick them or hoe them, so that's great. Onwards and upwards, what kind of things can we grow here?
Everything.
Wow.
Everything.
Literally everything. People say it's harder to grow blueberries because they need a lower pH. They need a more acidic soil. So we're alkaline here. We're about an 8.5 on the pH scale, and blueberries want more of like a 4.5, 5. So I've had some trouble with that in ground, but in containers I've had some luck. But everything grows here. It's just the timing, more than anything.
Yes. Yeah. And you were saying our seasons are like summer elsewhere. Our winters are like summer in Iowa, or say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, right now, I mean, we were highs in the 70s, for a while, and that's summer, up in the upper Midwest for sure. But here, it's just, I kind of think of it more as a warm season and a cool season. A lot of people will describe it as shoulder seasons. So the summer is the head, and that's like our winter here, where you're kind of limited on what's going to grow. And it's, certain things won't happen. Tomatoes won't set fruit above 95 degrees. They just abort the blossoms and drop them. So, and it's more about the soil temperature too. So if you're using mulch and you're planting intensively, you're keeping that soil cool and moist, then the plant's going to be happier and still produce for you. But we kind of see a little bit of a shutdown for certain types of tomatoes through the summer.
Yeah, I've experienced that. And one year I planted tomatoes early April. I was like, I'm going to get a good start on it. The next year I was like, March.
Yeah.
The next year, February. Now it's like, I'm going to put tomatoes in December and just cover them if it gets too cold. And
you know what? That's the way to
let
go.
them go
And
all
this
year.
We had tomatoes and chilies that are over a year old now. So we started them January or December.
What's the name for it?
2016.
There's two kinds of tomatoes.
Determinate and indeterminate. Yeah, so determinate will set
indeterminate.
their fruit usually all at once, or it's close enough to all at once. And for like sauce tomatoes, like Romas and things like that, so then you can can it all
That's
at
a
once.
determinate.
That's a determinate. Indeterminate will be like your cherry tomatoes and some of your slicing tomatoes. So they just keep setting fruit and growing and sprawling.
I had 2 seasons out of I was going into my second year on one plant. It was huge. I even cut the plant back so it would grow, and I got tomatoes on it for 2 years.
Nice.
Awesome.
So that's when I learned about determinants. And
There you go.
what else? Tell us about the food we want to eat every day.
Every day. Well, I
Like
kind
tomatoes.
of more. Yeah, right. I always recommend. I love salads throughout the whole year, and summer's kind of tough, so I've gone more to like greens and things that are a little bit gentle. So I'll have salads with like baby collards and Swiss chard, kale, all these things you can grow year round. I have grown year round for all of them, and Swiss chard's a close relative of beets. They're both in the chenopod family. So Swiss chard was just selected for having large leaves. And I eat the stalks too. It's like salty celery. It's delicious. And then I'll just tear it up and put it in salads. So that's the biggest hurdle I have is keeping salads going. And so the summer greens are really great for me. Sweet potato, like not the sweet potato ornamental vine, but actual sweet potatoes. Their greens are edible and delicious. They're great to use. Yeah.
I grew sweet potatoes. I bought them for Thanksgiving or whatever and had a couple left over, and they started sprouting. So I took them out, put them in the garden in my greenhouse.
Yeah.
They grew all over the greenhouse. I filled the greenhouse with vines. Then I ended up with these cute little sweet potatoes, fingerlings that were very tasty.
Yeah.
Now that I should try this. They were really red skinned.
Okay.
sweet potatoes.
White flesh or like a yellow?
Yellow, almost orange.
Yeah.
Nice.
So maybe they were yams.
There's even blues and purples. There's all sorts of different
These were
options.
almost purple.
Okay.
They were pretty dark, but it was more of a red than a purple.
And when
But
you plant sweet potatoes somewhere, that's your sweet potato bed forever.
Yeah.
You can
really?
keep trying to get rid of them, but you're going to end up leaving a piece of a root, and it's just going to grow right back.
So that's like your mints. You
Yeah.
put
Yes.
mint in, you should put it in a contained area or a
Definitely.
container because it will take over.
Oh, yeah.
I've had mint crawl 18 feet into my other garden.
Okay.
That's bad news.
Strawberries are the same way.
Yeah, strawberries, they're delicate
It's a
little
little
things.
more delightful.
Mints, you can't kill mint. I use mint a lot.
No, it's great under fruit trees like apple trees, though.
That's where I put it. I
Yeah.
put it under my lime tree, and it was contained in a patio, so they couldn't go for too far.
perfect.
So, okay, we're going to talk about some more plants. What's a good thing to grow in the desert that you can eat and use for medicine, too. So we'll be right back to Shades of Green on KDWN. And we're back on Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM in Las Vegas. I'm your host, Paul Ira, and we have Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble in studio from Garden Farms. Vanessa, tell us a little bit about how Garden Farms get started. Who are you guys?
So Bryan Valinga and Brittany Valinga, they started Garden Farms of Nevada
In 2010.
2010. And so the whole mission for Garden Farms is to just bring gardens to the community, teach people how to grow. There's so many people who are like, oh, I've always wanted to have a garden, but I don't know where to start. So we've built over 500 residential gardens
Wow.
and just over 140 school gardens in the city.
Tell us more about your school work, the work you're doing with the schools.
So Garden Farms Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and we install gardens and do garden programming for schools. And so we teach the curriculum, and we have the kids out there doing hands-on work in the garden. It's just a way to get everybody interested in the garden, having the kids learn about how to grow plants, what vegetables, how they actually grow, not just, I've seen that in the store, but I don't really know what it is. And then also the importance of eating those vegetables. Just in our society now, it's like fast food is just so big,
Starch and potatoes,
and yeah, and just like these kids having them snack on broccoli and carrots and just having them love it is really important to them. And
So you work with Green Art Planet.
Yeah, we've partnered with them at a few different schools and other organizations like Create a Change Now, all sorts of stuff where we've kind of incorporated everybody we meet. They've got something that they're doing good, and we try to have it all come together. The more organizations and benefits we can bring to the students, I say the better. So we do chef demos, we do farmers markets. They're learning entrepreneurship. We're actually having a big farmers market in April. It's the market in the alley downtown off of Fremont between 10th and 11th.
What day is that?
That's the 22nd.
Earth
That's
Day.
a Sunday.
Right,
Earth Day.
so right after our Greenfest festival.
Yeah,
Come
it's a
on down
busy
to the-
weekend for us.
I can see that. Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a good
the
compliment.
whole theme for that market in the alley, that's kids and entrepreneurship. So we'll have some of our schools come out, and we'll have a few do their farmers market and sell some stuff. And then there's other kids who are, build or make or collect different things that they sell, clothing, all sorts of stuff. It's just a nice, fun kind of craft farmers market sort of thing.
That's great. And your founder, Bryan Kalinga, how was he involved with MGM?
Well, he was the horticulture manager
Wow.
for MGM Resorts Property. He was working at Mirage for a real long time, which is actually one of my favorite landscaped resorts.
Yes.
down
Yeah.
on the
Wow.
Strip.
Yeah. And Bellagio and those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And Bellagio's got a great horticulture program.
Man, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tremendous to see that the greenery in our casinos.
It is amazing. I just had a couple of my cousins visit me last weekend, and they said, "Where should we go?" I said, I think you should go to the Wynn and see. I've never been in a place that had so many plants inside.
Right.
And it is amazing. That's a full-time job for multiple people.
It is. I actually used to be a cab driver, and so 3 or 4 in the morning, their horticulturists are coming out, pulling up the pansies, putting in new ones.
Wow.
And the ones they're pulling out, there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't look as pretty. And I was like sad, like a single tear. I was like, no, they're just throwing them away.
Don't do that. Okay. Vanessa, you were talking about herbalism and growing herbs, and I'm very interested, and I'm sure our listeners are, of medicinal gardens.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I have my favorite go-to herbs is my favorite 5. Chamomile, lavender, echinacea, yarrow, and lemon balm. Those all grow well out here. Lemon balm is a mint, so it will take over a space. But it helps fruit trees grow. So if you plant lemon balm at the base of your fruit trees, that's really beneficial for them. And for me, lemon balm it's basically like a happy herb. So it's for depression, anxiety, and it's just it tastes amazing. It's a lemon mint, basically, so you can make lemonade with it, and kids love it. All those 5 herbs, by the way, are also great for kids.
Say them again.
Chamomile, lavender, echinacea, yarrow, and lemon balm. Echinacea, everyone's pretty familiar with that one. It does take 3 years for the root to establish well enough to have its medicinal properties. So you do want to grow that for 3 years before harvesting medicinally. But that one it's very, very beautiful. It's also known as purple coneflower. All these will set beautiful flowers that will be beneficial for bringing bugs to your garden, the good bugs. The good bugs. So, and then lavender's also drought tolerant. So that's a great one to have out here. You don't have to water it every day. It's pretty tough, kind of like aloe vera. They kind of thrive on neglect a little bit.
They like to be left alone.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I grow a lot of aloe vera. So tell us about, should they be in pots? Can you grow these in the open? Or because I know some will just spread and take over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, the lemon balm is a mint, so you'd want that you can grow it in a pot, or like I said, it's really great to plant that one, especially at the base of your fruit tree. Hyssop is actually another herb that grows well at the base of a fruit tree, as well as garlic.
On that yarrow, too. We'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, you could just kind of plug those in. Those serve as a living mulch as well for your fruit trees. So it's like kind of double benefit there. Lavender, because it's easy to overwater it, I would recommend growing that one in a pot. That way you can kind of water it effectively.
Or just in your landscaping.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes if you put it in the garden with all your other vegetables, it will get too much water and it just dies.
Oh, I see. Okay. That makes sense.
But yeah, chamomile grows really great in the garden. You can just pop that one in. That one also gets big, but it's so beautiful and so easy to keep maintained. So you don't really have to worry about that taking over or anything. It's gorgeous.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. How do you spell yarrow? Is it
Yarrow?
Okay. And what does that have benefit for medicinally?
Medicinally, so that one is it's antiseptic. It brings down fevers. It's called a diaphoretic, which basically pushes out anything in your system that needs to be out. So it helps you
Toxins
break
and
a
that sort of
sweat
thing.
if you have a fever.
I see.
You can even just drop it in your bath and take a bath in it. Its botanical name is Achillea millefolium.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Good to know.
So it was said that Achilles' mother dunked him in a bath of yarrow when he was a baby and held him by his ankle. And so the only part of his body that didn't get in contact with the yarrow was his ankle, right? His Achilles
Hence the
tendon.
Achilles tendon. One weak spot.
Helps stop blood.
So be invincible. Dunk yourself in yarrow baths and be invincible. Be super
Yarrow
vulnerable.
bath. Make a note of that.
Warrior bath.
And hyssop, what's that for?
So hyssop is it helps for kind of stomach issues. It's a lovely spice. You can even just add it to your cooking. It's a really kind of like a tarragon kind of flavor. It's a beautiful plant. Also will bring beneficial insects to your garden, butterflies. Yeah, that
bugs. I wanted to get to that. I don't know if that's a whole segment or not, but bugs are an issue in the garden. There's good bugs, there's bad bugs.
Yeah.
So tell us about bad bugs and how do you get rid of them?
So, there's different kinds of bad bugs. One that really gets our crops, we have our aphids. So the ladybugs eat the aphids. So it's great to have ladybugs in your garden, kind of let that whole system work on its own. If you wanted to, bring in some organic fight for it, you can make a spray.
Yeah. Essential oil sprays are pretty successful, especially incorporating peppermint or clove or certain things
Into the water and
Yeah.
just spray them. I've used a little soapy water. I don't know if
Exactly.
that's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite way is to get a quart of water with 2 tablespoons of, I like Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap. I'll put 2 tablespoons of that into a quart of water, and then also 1/9 part rubbing alcohol. You want to make sure not to spray your plants in direct sun because it can burn the leaves. So dusk is probably the best time for that.
True story. Hey, this is all great information. We're going to have some more of it when we come back to Shades of Green on KDWN. We'll be right back.
With a look at the road.
We're back on Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM. We have Vanessa and Bryan in studio, and we are talking garden farms. So, gardening in the desert. Last segment we left talking about bad bugs. Finish up on bad bugs, and then tell us how to get the good bugs in the garden.
Well, other big ones, we talked about aphids, and those will attack, annual plants and even like fruit trees. You might see on your apple trees right now some black aphids.
And tell us how those get delivered. That surprised me when you told me that.
Well, if you have an aphid problem, you commonly also have an ant problem. So ants actually they husband aphids just like we do with cattle. We raise the cattle, we protect them, we guard them, we move them around. Ants do that with aphids because they eat their secretion. They call it honeydew. So it's a sweet substance that the ants eat. So they use the aphids and move them around to different plants and try and protect them.
So ants actually have those big club cab trucks, and they pull these
do,
things
yeah.
up in aphid cattle cars and
nice
deliver
hats.
them to the end of the plants. And I never saw that.
Yeah, it's actually it's a symbiotic relationship that's like, once you learn about it, it's actually pretty cool. But still, it's hard on your garden. But
They're the only ones that I've seen a lot of here. Back in the Midwest, we used to have the white butterflies, and they would come up, and I think they have the larva or the green.
Yeah, we've got the cabbage moth is what I call
Cabbage
it here.
moth,
So
there
it's
you
a
go.
white moth, and then it's the little green guy. They start off real tiny, and you can't really see them, but that's the kids come in handy there because they're poking and looking for everything. So they always find them before I do. But they just munch through all the brassicas. So your cabbage, they'll hit cauliflower, broccoli.
And are they the ones that grow very large?
Yeah, they get nice and plump and fat and juicy. A delicious snack for chickens.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get some chickens. I couldn't believe how many of those I pulled off of my tomatoes one year, and I didn't notice the moths.
You know what? Those might be the hornworm that
okay.
they've got that
They're like
red
finger
horn
sized.
too.
Those.
Yeah, those guys will get even bigger than the cabbage worms. But yeah, hornworms that's just, you got to go out there and pick them.
early morning is when
Early
they come
morning.
out. First thing in the first
And
light.
where do they come from?
Well, do they come from a moth as
Yes,
well?
yeah.
Because I've seen their pupa. You might find their pupa if you're digging around before the season starts. It's this dark, like brownish, blackish thing, and you could still see it moving
Oh,
around.
yeah, I've seen those.
Oh, that's so gross. But
Okay,
cool.
so now the bad bugs and the disgusting bugs. How about the pretty bugs and the ones that we want on our garden? What are they?
We love our ladybugs. They're your best friend. Ladybugs. I love parasitic wasps. And so they'll actually lay their eggs into the cabbage worms. The eggs hatch and they eat the worm from the inside out.
I love it.
Yeah, and those are just the little black guys. They kind of have a flying pattern like hummingbirds if you're out in your garden just kind of looking. Just kind of, they jet off and they're moving like what people say UFOs, they just dart around like crazy.
all over. Vertical. Great. Yeah.
Praying mantises are really great. You can buy those at the nursery. They come with their eggs, like a little egg sack with some sticks. You can just put them into your plants, and then they'll hatch and do their job. Basically, anything beneficial, like the praying mantises, ladybugs, worms, you can find those at your local nursery.
Actually, right now too. Even
You have a favorite nursery, or they?
I like Star Nursery.
they're reliable and good. I like Star, Moon Valley, all sorts.
Yeah.
It's just depending on what I'm looking for. There's certain plants that I can find at this nursery that I can't find at this one. And then just even amongst the stars, like Boulder Highway Star is my jam because they always have everything that I need, and I live right there too, so it's perfect for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And you have some events coming up. You wanted to
do.
announce, Vanessa.
Yeah, we do. So we're going to be at a couple of events in April. The first one being April 7th. It's the Wellness Fair at downtown Summerlin. We're going to have a booth there, so you can come by and check us out. We always give free consultations if you're interested in having a garden in your yard. We'll also be at the Green Fest, which is on April 21st. We have a Market in the Alley, which is a kid-based market. As Bryan was mentioning, that one is on Earth Day, Sunday the 22nd.
And that'll be at Fremont Street, on East Fremont Street.
Yes.
Yeah, Fremont between 10th and 11th in the alleyway that leads to the bunkhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And, beyond that, through the foundation, through our schools, we always have events going on, lots of community outreach. We'll do tons of farmers markets where the kids will put on the market, and we'll do fundraisers. We do chef demos. So if you're ever interested in helping us out, if you're a chef or if you'd like to help with any fundraising or anything, you could just reach out to us.
Find us on Facebook or Instagram, Garden Farms, or 551 Grow.
And your website?
gardenfarms.net.
Great. Thank you.
And we're on Facebook as Garden Farms and also Garden Farms Foundation.
So 551 GROW is your phone number.
Yes.
702, I assume.
Correct.
Yes.
Old school.
Wow, I love it. 551 GROW. So call them up. If people want to have you come out and take a look at their property, like myself, they can call you and
Free consultation. We
Free
come out, give you some
consultation.
ideas, maybe draw up a little estimate for you or a little plan and run some ideas by you, see what you like.
you're going to need a big sheet of paper. Any more announcements?
Yes, I just wanted to sum up. We've been following the first robotics competition, and our local schools have been cooperating with First Nevada. That was held over the weekend at Thomas and Mack on Friday and Saturday, and Team 987, the High Rollers from Cimarron Memorial High School, won the Las Vegas Regional, and they also won the Gracious Professionalism Award. And that's
Put your hands together for those
right,
guys.
yeah,
That
good
was
job, good job,
stuff.
Cimarron Memorial. And then there were about 5 new teams for the first time this year, and 2 of them actually won awards, and will be going on to the World Nationals along with Cimarron Memorial in Houston, Texas. So that'll be around the same weekend as Greenfest. Team 6957, the Aces, ACES from Lake Mead Christian Academy, won the Rookie All-Star Award, so they'll be going on to the World Championship. And they're also, because they are a first-year team, and also the Team 6824 Robot Pigeons from Las Vegas Academy of Arts won the highest rookie seed award, and they were the Las Vegas regional finalist, second place. So all 3 of those teams will be going on to Houston. They do need some fundraising help. If anyone's interested, please contact firstnevada.org. They need $5,000 World Championship registration plus airline and travel expenses for their team. So we'll probably have them on the show in the next week or two, have some of the kids come on and
That'd be
talk a little
great.
bit more.
I see a bake sale in their future.
That's for sure. Always great. Thank you. And then, of course, our Green Fest festival coming up. Basically, we'll have about 120 exhibitors, I think, at downtown Summerlin on Saturday, April 21st from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
It's a free event. We got kids play a lot out there. I can't imagine. I can't
We have a
believe how
kids
much
zone with
fun
bounce
they have.
houses.
The kids zone, and of course, right next to the kids zone's a beer garden, so you can drink beer and watch your kids play. So
Something for everybody.
if you're into something like that. And then there's a lot of repurposing and recycling and new products and green products. And of course, you can't have an event like this without music and food. So there's a lot of great food, good music. Bring your kids, stay all day. Bring some sunscreen, bring some waters. There'll be waters there, but I always forget sunscreen. And it's always a beautiful day out there. We have a lot of fun, good music, good food, sunshine, great green products. And we want to see you all out there. Come and see the Garden Farms folks and all the rest of our exhibitors. I'm Paul Ira, your host on Shades of Green, KDWN. Tune in next week. Have a great week out there and keep it green.